You're watching the Norfolk Southern Sherwood Subdivision, and in this video we'll be doing a little layout tour. First we'll start off with the room that the layout is in. You can see the layout in the background. The room is about 21 by 13. It's a room over a garage. Where I live we don't have basements. The good news about the room over the garage is it's got its own heating and air conditioning system. So we don't have huge temperature fluctuations like you might get in the basement, and we don't have humidity like a basement might provide. The bad news is it's over the garage, right under the roof, so we have sloping sides. That prevents the layout from expanding upward. So the only way we could have multiple levels is to go downward. Right now it's an HO scale layout. It's G-shaped, designed for switching and for walk-around use. The area that you're seeing directly in front of you, this wide area, is planned for future expansion so we can have continuous running and hidden staging. Right now, of course, it's empty. We'll just pan over here. You can see part of the layout over there and in the back, and we'll get closer views of these in a moment. And to the right. If you go further to the right, that's the workbench. Some layout construction details. The layout is freestanding. It is not connected to the walls, and I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to destroy the walls. The layout is built with L-Girder construction. Here's the L-Girder. This is another one over here. And this one is inverted from where it normally would be. Normally the flange would point out, but because it's it's near the wall, flange points in to provide easy access to the flange. It's topped with MDF, that's this stuff right here, and topped with insulation foam. This piece right here is a little berm that I built to hold the scenery. The complication of building this, you can see here. This wall is actually the ceiling. The roof's right above us here because we're in this room over the garage. So there's no way to build up. The only way you can build is build out. So all the valences and all the lighting are connected to the benchwork in a cantilevered manner like this. And the lighting itself hides behind a valence. And you can see the lights there, they're compact fluorescents. I may change the LEDs, but these were the most reasonable at the time. Getting back to the benchwork, because it's against the wall, and there are limitations about reach and those sorts of things, the benchwork that you will see is all 2 feet wide. There's nothing wider. The only greater distance to reach is in the corners. We'll look at the electronics in a moment. And what we're seeing here is the underside of the layout. And you'll see here the large red wire in the back. That's a bus for the DCC system. It's a number 12 solid wire, goes throughout underneath the entire layout. There's a corresponding black wire in the front. And you see the suitcase connectors, the insulation displacement connectors. Those are used for the track feeders. The track feeders are number 20 solid wire. And you may also get a glimpse of the bottom of a tortoise switch machine there. The switch machine power is provided by a 12-volt power supply that we'll see in a moment. The electronics in the system are very simple. It's a digital command control system by Digitrax. That's the DCC controller. This item right here is the power supply for it, and the item on the left is a 12-volt power supply that goes to the switch machines. We have only one Digitrax box here because there's only one power district. If we expand the railroad like I said we might in the beginning, we'll probably add a second power district. The turnouts themselves are controlled by control panels, such as this one. The panel is made from plexiglass with a piece of paper under it that's actually a Microsoft PowerPoint diagram, and toggle switches. The position of the toggle switch indicates which way the turnout is thrown. Moving on to the top of the layout, what we're seeing here is the grain facility. Trains arrive with their covered hoppers filled with grain, and the grain facility manufactures probably animal feed. And you can see it has an area over here for loading and unloading propane, the propane tanks themselves, the various components of the grain facility, trains parked behind it, trains waiting to get into it. So that's the Sherwood grain facility. Now moving around to our right, we see an empty space. The track in the back accesses the grain facility. I'll move the camera over here. The track in the front is the switching lead for the town of Sherwood's small yard. Track in the back is the main line. Main line's minimum radius is 28 inches. And we're moving over to the small town and undeveloped small town of Sherwood. And you can see there's an intention to have down here a locomotive facility, a couple of commercial buildings, a station for the eventual Amtrak service. The yard in the front has 2 tracks, and it contains a runaround track. It's the only runaround track on the layout other than the passing siding that you see in the back. Way in the back is, of course, the main line and its corresponding passing siding. The remainder of Sherwood has a couple of industries that are serviced by the railroad, and you can see there'll be some switching that takes place here. Moving on from Sherwood, track in the back is the main line with its passing siding. The curve that comes off here goes into the recently completed, I use that word advisedly because, as we know, nothing's ever really completed. This is the Sherwood Inland Port. It is an intermodal yard. You can see it goes on for like 6 feet. It's got the ever popular intermodal crane from Walters. And the Inland Port provides customs and integration service for a seaport. So instead of having all that done at the seaport, the trains are loaded and brought here to the Inland Port, which relieves the congestion of the seaport. This particular area is the focus of this layout. Well, that concludes our tour of this small layout. As you can see, it's got a lot of things that could be done and will be done. And in the future, we'll be providing videos on improving the scenery in the grain processing area, fixing up the town of Sherwood, building out the buildings, putting in the streets. There'll be some operations videos, including operations at the grain facility, at Sherwood Yard itself, and also at the Inland Port. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see other videos like this, of the type that we just described, please consider subscribing.